The PS5 Pro has just been revealed.
What we see here is a difference in detail.
Are we looking at the same thing? They just copy and pasted the image and thought we wouldn't notice?
Substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the big 3.
Play has no limits, and neither does money.
So overall, some remarkable improvement to the games.
Yeah?
I feel that Sony at the minute is constantly in this upward climb and simultaneously a downward spiral. Every bad thing that happens, a good thing happens, and vice versa. I mean, a good example is this scientific graph that was made at Harvard showing the X and Y axis being depression level and time. We're so back with Helldivers 2, and then it's so over with Concord, which basically shut down a week after it came out. And then we're so back again with Astrobot, which is an insanely good platformer, and it's so over again because of the PS5 Pro. Again, I've never known a company to flop, to then have such a banger, to then flop again. I mean, you know Concord, I didn't do a video on it, but pretty much every single YouTuber did. The game was that dead on arrival. I think it had like 80 players or something like that. Basically, they shut down the servers of the game after pretty much a week. I remember Critical doing 2 separate videos where he like tried to play the game, he tried to have fun, and he just couldn't. There was no fun to be had in that game.
The bullet magnetism in this game is actually sickening. The fact that those shots hit is crazy. Give me the meat, boys, and fill my holes. I wanna get sauced by your butt patrol and clap away.
And now that video of Critical playing Concord, that is like a relic that aliens might discover because you can't play the game anymore. They've shut it down completely. But then, obviously, what happened? Sony said, guys, we're really sorry. This won't happen again. Let's make it up to you. And within 3 days, they made Astrobot. That's definitely what happened. They made it in 3 days. Now, I will be honest, I have not played Astrobot. I do have a beloved PS5 here, which I've thrown against the backdrop of my videos many times. I have to use this paperweight, just to play GTA 6. Fuck that. And I'll be honest, this thing somehow still turns on, despite the fact that I broke the panels multiple times. Hell yeah! I'm not going to do it now because, like, after this video, you'll understand that the PS5 that you have right now, this is precious.
We're having soft tacos later.
Regarding Astrobot, I've seen a lot of detractors basically saying, oh, it's basically just it's a glorified Super Mario Odyssey that came out in 2017. Like, okay, true. But also, the game does look genuinely fun. And then I've seen other people saying, I clapped when Le character from Le Other Game appear on screen, which is also true.
Oh, let's go! That's class!
But, like, the game does seem fun. It seems genuinely fun. Is it fun enough for me to plug in my PS5 and pay the money and then set up all the monitors and stuff so it comes through on my monitors? No, I can't be arsed. I got my cable management done. No, I don't care. I'll probably see it on the Steam page 5 years from now. I mean, to be fair, we're probably going to get The Last of Us Part 2 on PC at some point. All we really need to do is wait for Season 2 of the show to come out that everyone's probably going to hate. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because we finally got it. It was inevitable. Every single console that has a lifespan before they jump to the next generation, they try to make a pro version of their console. If you're an old head like me, you might remember the Xbox 360 and how they had the Xbox 360 Elite that was black and it had a slightly less chance of getting those red rings of death that you'd have to ship off to Microsoft to get it fixed. The Nintendo Switch had the OLED model that made the screen like half an inch bigger and the frame is white and the screen is better and none of the processing powers are increased at all. You're still getting a game that's going to run at 10 FPS. But now the PS5 inevitably has the PS5 Pro. And you're probably wondering what the price tag of such a beast is. $700. And this is where it gets even better, right? If you're in the UK, you get cucked because we have to pay for everything more over here because our country's falling apart. £700. And if you're wondering what £700 is in USD, that's $916. You're paying $1,000 for this thing if you live in the UK. I don't understand why we have to pay more for everything. We're literally being shafted like actual third world country. Like genuinely, what in the phantom tax is going on? Why are we being taxed an extra like $200 for no reason? This isn't something I'm making up, by the way. This is the actual price sheet. So it's $700, £700, 800 euros. Keep in mind, 800 euros converted to USD is $883 at the time of recording. So again, we are the only country in the world that has to pay more. Like, I don't understand why we're being punished. Like, maybe Sony has saw all the bits of me, like, throwing my PS5 against the wall. and decided to like punish the whole nation for that. I'm gonna try and keep my cool. The biggest question is it worth it currently if you have a PS5 to get the PS5 Pro? Now, some of these features which they talked about in the keynote are pretty interesting. Like, for example, they have a more advanced GPU and a larger GPU, thicker GPU. They also have advanced ray tracing and AI upscaling to increase the frame rate from 60 FPS, that being in a 4K resolution as well. And then also talking about an enhanced storage and memory capabilities, going from 825 gigabytes in the PS5 to 2 terabytes. And honestly, people will be getting out of their chair and clapping, saying how like based Sony is. They're not. Have you seen how big games are now? I swear Warzone, like if you download everything for the new COD, it's like a good 800 gigabytes. So basically, that's already a whole, like half of your storage is already gone. Also, to any PS5 law scholars, I do like to correct myself. It does actually come with 1 terabyte of storage, but then there's always a chunk that's taken up by like, you know, system data and whatnot. So basically, it's 825 gig. Now, in the technical presentation hosted by Mark Cerny, there are some things that are a little bit worrying if you read between the lines. He basically says there are 3 huge changes that are happening with the PS5 Pro, and it's again the larger GPU, the ray tracing, and the AI-driven upscaling. 2 of those are basically the GPU. The larger GPU is the GPU, and then the ray tracing is also the GPU. So it's really 2 changes, if anything. And then ray tracing, I love ray tracing. It's great. I love looking down at like puddles of water and then I see my character's reflection. I love looking in the mirror and I see my own character, like beloved children's game Mafia 3. Now, the cons for this machine, apart from the $200 price hike, that's $200 if you're in America. You're basically paying for 2 PS5s if you live in the UK. And then on top of that as well, despite it being a PS5 Pro, which probably is going to be the last major console that they make in the PS5 line, like the most upgraded one before they make like a peasant version. There's no disc drive. You got to pay again you got to pay extra to get an optical disc drive. And I get it. I know so many people, like they download and buy all their things online now. I do that. I'll be honest. Like I have not bought a single physical game in the past like 5 years because there's no point, especially on PC as well. Like who the hell does that? You know, once you get Steam or like Epic Games or something, everything you kind of just do online. But again, I remember when I was but a wee little lad, there's obviously the novelty of going to a game store or online and buying a physical copy. I know people that have like rows and rows of like, you know, Xbox games, PS5 games, because they like to be physical collectors, and then they probably collect Funko Pops as well. A little bit odd, but whatever, you do you. The fact you got to pay more for the optical disc drive, despite the fact that you're paying way more money than you should anyway. A lot of people basically started ribbing on the PS5 Pro, saying why are Blu-ray players getting so expensive now? So this is where the math is not mathing at all. So they have offered a PS5 version in the past that has been disc-free. It's called like a digital version, and I get it. Like that's fine if you've got a good internet connection. You don't live in the UK if you have a good internet. I'm sorry. I know the majority of you watching this are American, but I'm so rent-free about how like the PS5 at every turn is trying to like cuck people in the UK. So again, if you get the digital version for the PS5, no disc tray, you're basically relying on having good internet. If you live in the UK, good luck. Okay, consider this, right? The base PS5 Pro is $700. That is without the disc drive. And then it's $499 with the disc drive included. So it's going to cost even more than $200 to get that. And then you know that little crappy vertical stand as well that always says it isn't included in the asterisk. And then on top of that as well, you have to get it installed versus buying an option where it's already put on for you. It is just a money sink. Now, a lot of critics, and I say critics, there's been like 2 forum posts and they were probably on Reddit, and they're basically making the counterpoint that you can easily get a gaming laptop or a computer with great specs for a similar price. Now, getting into the nerd stuff here a little bit, the newer GPU might actually be the equivalent of the AMD Radeon RX 6800. And currently, if you look that up online, that's worth about $350. And also, it was released back in 2020. So again, like you're getting the PS5 Pro, which is meant to be like the best console in the world. It can play everything max settings. It is running on 4-year-old technology. Like, why does no one have a problem with this? So even though the GPU is apparently larger, does it really justify a price hike like this when the technology is like basically 4 years old? And also, I do want to say, I don't want to give any shade to any of my boys that are running that Radeon RX 6800. I just think it's a little bit bizarre how it's basically saying that it's like the cornerstone of technology and the best console you can get without getting like a giga powered PC, but it's still running on the equivalent of a 4-year-old card. Now, one critic made this bizarre counterpoint. Like, I get it, okay? Like, I really don't like the PS5, but this is the one time I'm going to defend them. They made the point saying that you could go on holiday for 2 weeks for less than £700. The vacation spots they include mention Turkey, Bulgaria, Greece, or even Morocco. You can touch grass for the similar price of getting a PS5 Pro. I'm going to counter that opinion piece because do gamers touch grass? No. Half the world is basically stuck indoors now calling on Discord all day. Like, no, there is no way that someone, oh, let me go to Morocco. Let me go to Turkey, get like a hair transplant. Let me go to Bulgaria, get robbed. Let me go to Greece and laugh at all the people for how bad their economy is. Okay, great. I get to do poverty tourism for a week. Where's my PS5? That's a really awful counterpoint, I do want to say, and you can definitely tell that was wrote by a boomer. There's also this whole conversation about AI upscaling and how effective it actually is going to be, because obviously every company in the world, they love using AI. Wait, I get to fire people? And we still make money? Oh my god, AI, I love AI. Now, during the presentation, they show various examples of background details in various games to highlight how much crisper the PS5 Pro performs compared to the PS5 on performance mode. Keep that in mind. Remember, you've got graphics mode and then performance mode. Graphics mode, everything look amazing, but then game 7 FPS. And then performance mode, everything look a little bit washed out, but you get 60 FPS. It's really unsurprising, by the way, as well. During the keynote speech, they basically admitted that 3/4 of people, 75%, chose to have performance mode because, again, it's like frame rate over everything. Always. Like, I would rather my game look like ass and have a stable frame rate because, like, I'll be honest, I remember playing Red Dead Redemption 2 when it came out, like on the PS5 very briefly, and like on 30 FPS, if like, okay, Red Dead 2 is a very bad example. I get that. It's very unfair because the game already feels like it has input delay. It's like, you know, you press like the X button to get Arthur on his horse and it takes him like, he's like, and then he gets up on the horse, right? But imagine how delayed Red Dead Redemption 2 is on top of it being 30 FPS. It was completely unplayable. I could not get into that game at all. And you know what I did? I bought it on PC and had the best time of my life. So yes, Take-Two, you won. I bought the game twice. That's why you didn't announce a release date on PC, scumbags. Now, they do compare the PS5 Pro to the PS5 on performance mode, which is incredibly unfair. That's like in Fear and Hunger. You lost your arms, you lost your legs, and then you got blinded by a crow mauler. By the way, for anyone that didn't get the funny video game reference, that's basically you are playing the game moving at the pace of a slug because you're crawling on the floor because you have no arms and you have no legs and you've been blinded. So if you didn't memorize the entire game off by heart, which changes every time you boot it up, you are screwed. I honestly think this is a really bad time as well for Sony to announce the PS5 Pro because they just had Astrobot, and Astrobot is a banging game. Everyone is saying great things about it. And that is a game that can easily run 60 FPS because it was made around it. It's a very simplistic game. It doesn't have the high fidelity of like Horizon or The Last of Us Part 2. And by the way, they were using those games during the presentation because they have nothing else to show off because they know that like every other game is already on PC by now. I also watched the presentation again with Mark Cerny, and it does come across as very weird. They're almost like trying to bury the PS5, but they don't want to be open about it. They're constantly making comparisons about how much better the PS5 Pro is, but they also at the same time don't want to slate the original PS5 too much because they know once they do that, basically no one's going to buy it. And the thing is, again, no one has any money right now. Everyone is broke. Everyone is poor, except me. I'm a billionaire. But the point being, when this PS5 Pro comes out, it's not like everyone is going to jump onto buying the PS5 Pro. Most people won't. It's going to be a selective console. And I guarantee you, they're not going to make as many models of the PS5 Pro that they made of the PS5. With the PS5, they made about 7 different models before they ran out of stock on every single site online, and then scumbag scalpers were trying to like resell it to you for double the price, which is honestly probably still cheaper than the PS5 Pro. If you're wondering what the huge TLDR is of this video, basically PS5, right, you had graphics mode and then you had performance mode. Again, performance mode was 60 FPS, looked a little bit worse, and then graphics mode, everything looked better, but it was like 30 FPS. Basically, all the PS5 Pro is performance mode, frame rate, while having the graphics setting. So it's basically just the best of both worlds. Is it really worth like dumping nearly $1,000 into getting it though? Probably not. If anything, hear me out, right? I know that the PS5 had a lot of issues on launch because I think there was something about like them not having the materials to make so many consoles. Okay, this is a genius idea. I don't know why they're not thinking about this. Why not be able to trade in your PS5 to then get the PS5 Pro at like a massively discounted price, like 50% off or 70% off or something, because they're basically the same console, just one of them has a better GPU. Just pay for the cost of the GPU. Like maybe they have to do an assessment of your PS5 if they can actually reuse the materials. Like, oh no, there's a bit of a semen stuck inside the fan there. We can't accept this one, sir. But I think that is, honestly, Sony, hire me. I don't know the logistics. That's probably going to be an absolute nightmare, but I don't have to pay more money for it, so I'm down for it. Now, I think some of the games that they shown off during the presentation were a little bit embarrassing. I mean, for example, they were showing Borderlands 3 and how it could get up to, I think it was 120 frames.
And frame rates that can be as high as 120 frames a second. PS5 has a powerful RDNA 2 GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to explore.
I mean, two things. First of all, getting Borderlands 3 at 120 FPS is that's not any milestone. The game came out in 2019. It is a 5-year-old game. And also, it's a really mid game. Like, goddamn, that game was actually so goddamn mid. I remember buying that game on Epic because it came out on Epic first. And then because I've got, like, autistic brand loyalty, I waited for it to come out on Steam. I bought it again, hoping I'd enjoy it. No, just nothing. My brain switched off. And also, the Rick and Morty Easter egg. I'm never letting that go. I'll be honest now, unfortunately, a lot of people haven't really talked about this, but what Sony is doing is basically what every single company is doing. I mean, a good example is, like, you know, the smartphone that comes out every year. Like, I'm on a S25 Ultra. Basically, at the minute, I'm on like the best Samsung phone, like the most powerful Samsung phone money can buy, which is probably as powerful as like an iPhone 8 or something. But the point I'm trying to make is like these companies now, they're not innovating anymore because they know people will buy like anything. So, you know, they talk about all these amazing features like Nebula Demi 5 GPU core. My nuts itch. My nuts really itch. Please help me. Please get the itching powder. Oh my God, my nuts itch. Gen 5. All the PS5 Pro is having the performance frame rate while having the graphics setting graphics pretty much. So you're just getting better looking games. And then also at the same time, you're getting good frame rate. And it's like, just say that. You didn't need to have like a 20-minute presentation where you're just talking about how like, you know, oh, the fidelity is so good, guys. Wow, look at all that fidelity. Now you can have motion blur without the game slowing down. That's fidelity, guys. That's fidelity. At the minute, buying a PS5 Pro is a meme. There is no point. There genuinely is no point. Like every game they were showing off that was like, it looked better, they're all like 5-year-old games. Like The Last of Us Part 2, I don't mean to scare you here, by the way, this is going to be a shock. That came out in 2020. That is nearly a 5-year-old game, which is... Jesus, that is terrifying to say out loud. Oh my God, we're all just like rushing to the grave. They also brag about having quicker loading times as well, just because like the SSD is better. And it's like, apart from Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I cannot think of a single game where you would need to have faster loading times, because to be fair, the loading times in Rift Apart were pretty awful. But again, it's like, this is not a new game.
A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game world and data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
Honestly, if they announce games that would be better on the PS5 Pro or almost built for the PS5 Pro, could you imagine that? Then there would be an incentive. Then there would be a reason. But at the minute, it's like, oh yeah, you know that 5-year-old game you platinum because you're a sweat? You can play it now. And the load times are quicker. And also the frame rate's better. Like, I don't think Sony understand this is not giving you a new game. Like, just because a game I played in 30 FPS is now 60 does not mean I'm going to go back and play it. Rift Apart was a really good game, by the way. I'm actually, you know what? Like, for the one time, I actually kneel to Sony because thank God they put that on Steam, because that was a really good platform. I love that game. They have this one part called Tempest 3D Audio as well, and it's like the biggest scam imaginable because it's so obvious that all they've done for this presentation is they've got gameplay and then they've taken the audio to a sound studio and added an insane amount of bass. You know those videos you get on YouTube where it's like 5D audio, whatever that means, and it's basically just increasing the bass? That's all they've done, because you're not playing this on a PS5 Pro. You are sat at home watching it on your phone or on your computer, so the audio has obviously been tampered with to make it sound more cinematic and make it sound more immersive.
Tempest 3D audio tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games. With audio so real, you may not even need to see the enemies to know exactly where they are.
The one saving thing about this presentation is the fact that they show Returnal gameplay. That's a good game. I'm going to do a main channel video on Returnal at some point. It's not all in their head, I promise. It is. They also show that the PS5 Pro controller has like built-in haptics so you could feel the game when you play it.
Finally, the DualSense controller has haptics that let you feel through your hand what the character is experiencing.
I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here because Sony scammed me. So here's my PS5 controller, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about the fact that Sony quietly increased the cost of the PS5 DualSense controller without telling anyone. They actually quietly bumped it up by $5. So instead of it being $69, it's now $75. No, let's ignore that. Let's talk about the fact that I bought the PS5 DualSense Edge, which to this day is still the best controller for the PS, basically the best video game controller money can buy, and the most expensive by far, being around £200. You know, it comes with this cool little threaded cable, this little bag, so you can take it on a holiday with you because you got no mates. It's got everything. It even has little buttons that you can adjust and take off and stuff. Listen to this, right? Listen to this. Listen to the feedback of this controller, right? Listen.
Autism spectrum disorder, or autism for short, is a term that describes...
That's nice, right? That's nice. There's a bit of feedback there, right? That's the $70 one. Now, what about the £200 one? Let's listen. Basically nothing. The button, the buttons on this are pressed in. And guess what? You can swap out the thumbsticks. You can swap out the triggers. You can't swap these out. So basically, I got scammed. I got scammed. Genuinely, like, I bought this controller solely to play Elden Ring on PC, right? And it's a complete waste of money. No point buying it. So now I just have to default to the normal controller. It's not a big issue, but like, I paid £200 for that, and they scammed me. Now, the average person would probably say, Lamau, you deserved it for paying £200 for a controller. True. I actually can't counteract that point. It was the most stupid decision I made in my life. I know this is a dead bit as well, but like, I think one thing that's really sad about the PS5 Pro presentation is like, it just shows how little games the PS5 has. It really does not have a lot of games. I'm not talking about games. I'm talking about like actual exclusives. You know, they've got Spider-Man 2. They've got The Last of Us Part 2. Those are gonna come over onto PC at some point and probably have way more options and settings. Harry Potter, did you put no games in the... And I know what's going to happen. Anytime you bring this up, Sony fanboys will instantly direct all their hate to Xbox. Okay, I get it. You're kicking Xbox when they're down. They actually have negative games. They have no games because any game that does come out, it basically just comes out on Game Pass. Now, they do show some examples of like how the PS5 Pro looks better. I mean, they show some screenshots of like, you know, The Last of Us Part 2 or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And the fidelity far away definitely is better. It is. Like, you can't argue about that. But again, it's like when you're playing a game like that, do smaller details that far away really matter that much? Is it really worth paying the best part of $1,000 just to be able to read those words on a sign like 500 meters away? I think it's like what I said earlier. It just goes to show that companies right now are just not innovating anymore. They basically just want to be able to sell you the next product that's like a 5% improvement than the last. This is not worth your money at all. It is not. It's cool. It's cool. It's definitely, you know, if you're super rich and you got money to burn, sure, you could buy one, definitely. But like in today's market, when everyone's poor, there's like inflation, cost of living crisis, like all this stuff going on. It's not worth it. It's genuinely just not worth it because it's such a minuscule upgrade. You're basically just playing games, max settings, 60 FPS. That's it. I want to end the video on this one tweet from Rock Solid. No disc player. $100 disc reader sold separately. $30 stand for the console that you have to buy separately. More expensive controllers, AI features, 8K resolution support. Nobody has an 8K TV. $700 in North Europe, $900 in Europe. And this is the one time where Todd Howard wins.
People will buy anything. That doesn't mean you should do it.